I'm Andrea. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I would love for you to subscribe, especially if you enjoy notary, signing agent work, business, personal finance, or lifestyle content. This is the channel for you. But enough rambling, let's get right into the video. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to pass the California Notary Public Exam and what is actually on the exam. But before I get into that, I want to remind you that you must take a 6-hour course of study approved by the Secretary of State. And to find that course, I highly recommend you visit the Secretary of State's website, and there are a list of approved courses. That's actually how I found my course. Now, I've prefaced that. Let's get into how to register for the exam. So, how to register for the exam is the first thing you want to do is, again, visit the Secretary of State's website. Click Notary and Apostille, however you say that. And then there's going to be a checklist. And on that checklist is going to say register for the exam. You're going to click register for the exam, and then when registering for the exam, you're going to pick a time, date, and location. Okay? Now, you don't have to make an appointment. You can be a walk-in for the exam, but I don't recommend that because I remember when I went to take my exam, I did have an appointment. However, there are about 10 to 15 walk-ins and not one of them were able to take the test simply because it's on a first come, first served basis. Or first serve, first come basis. And if everyone who has an appointment shows up the day of the exam, then no walk-ins are able to take it during that time slot. So, have an appointment. It's highly recommended. All right, now that we know how to register for the exam, let's talk about what to bring on test day. Now, there are quite a few things you want to bring to test day. And the first thing being your California's driver's license or ID. Okay, the next thing you want to bring is your 6-hour approved course. And here's a tip. The name on your course certificate has to be the name that's on your ID. For an example, on my driver's license, I have my middle names. I have my whole entire name. So really I have 4 names. I never put my middle names on anything. I always put my first and my last name. However, since my middle names are on my driver's license, I have to put my whole entire name on my 6-hour course certificate. So make sure you have your full name on your 6-hour course certificate. Okay? Now, the next thing that you want to bring is a 2x2 passport photo. Again, a 2x2 passport photo. And the reason why I'm repeating that is because on my test day, I had a few people who brought 8x10s, 4x6s, or had a picture on their phone. No, they will not accept that. They literally have to take the photo from you, a physical photo from you. So it must be a 2x2 passport photo. Okay, the next thing you want to bring is the notary application, and I have a video that I'll link down below in the description box on how to fill out the notary public application. Okay, so the next thing you want to bring is a $40 money order or personal check made out to the Secretary of State. And the last thing that you can bring, it's not mandatory, but if you want to be a good Samaritan, I would recommend bringing a couple of extra notary applications that are blank and a couple of extra number 2 pencils, because I had a few people at my exam date that didn't have applications, or they filled out the application wrong, or didn't even have a pencil. So I just handed it to them, but no biggie. So those are the things that you need to bring to the California Notary Public Exam. Now that we know how to register for the exam and what to bring, let's talk about how to study for the exam. So when studying for the exam, this is the number 1 thing I recommend. If you take anything from this video, this is the one thing I want you to remember. When finding a course, find a course that best suits the way you learn. Okay, so for an example, I'm a visual learner, so I made sure that I picked a course that had pictures, that had videos, that had audio, that where I can look and see what I'm learning, because there's a lot of courses out there that just have you read or have you write. So find a course that best suits you. Okay, the next tip that I would give for when studying for the exam is reiterate the whole course. Now, I know the course is 6 hours and some courses are even longer than 6 hours. I would recommend getting a course that has an audio version as well. So for an example, my course had a 30-minute audio that summed up everything that I learned in the 6-hour course. And I listened to it when I went for a walk or when I was driving in my car. So just something that will reiterate everything that you learned in the course. Third tip that I would give is to read the most recent Notary Public Handbook. Okay, now the reason why I'm saying that is because my course didn't actually touch on everything that was in the Notary Public Handbook, and this test is made for and based on what's in the Notary Public Handbook. So I would highly recommend you read that. It's not that long. You can actually get it on the Secretary of State's website for free. All right. Last but not least, I would look for free Notary Public Exam tests on Google. I'll list a few down below in the description box on the ones that I use to study, but there are tons out there, and your course should actually provide you a practice exam for the test. Now that we know how to register for the exam, what to bring to the exam, and tips for how to study, let's actually get into what is actually on the exam. Now, let me preface something. I'm not going to tell you exactly and specifically what's on the Notary Public Exam. By law, I actually really can't do that. I'm only going to give my opinion on what to study for specifically and what I saw on the exam. Okay? Now, let's get into that. So, I want to say 50% of the exam are situational questions. So, an example of a situational question would be Jane Doe was asked to notarize a document. Upon meeting with the signer, she noticed that the signer's ID was expired. How can she proceed? And then choice A would say she can proceed only if the ID was issued within the last 8 years. Or B, no, she cannot proceed because notary publics aren't allowed to take expired IDs. Or C, she can proceed only if the ID was issued within the last 5 years. Comment down below what's the right answer. But, so that's what I mean by situational questions. And then I want to say 45% of the exam were questions about fines. And this is where it gets tricky, because in my opinion and most notary publics who took this exam, that the fines will get you. That is the hardest part. And so an example of questions that would be related to fines would be, they would give you a situation and then they would ask you, is this an example of negligence, or could this person get a felony or a misdemeanor? Okay. Or another example would be, they would give you a situation and then they would ask you, how much would this notary public be fined? Would it be $10,000, $1,200, $500, or none of the above? Okay, so those are examples of fines. I actually have a chart that is very helpful that helped me out remember the fines that I'll link down below in the description box. Now, lastly, I want to say 5% of the exam are questions that are specific based on anything related to notary public, but they're just very, very specific. It could be a specific question about the journal or the duties of a notary public, or and the IDs. So like an example would be out of all the digits, what digit are you supposed to use for the notary journal, if that makes sense? Or an example would be, If a person doesn't have a California's driver's license or ID, what is the next tier IDs that we can take? Or they'll have a picture of a certificate and they'll ask you, what is this? It's an acknowledgement or jurat. So that's basically it. Now that we know how to register for the exam, what to bring to the exam, what to study for, and what specifically is on the exam, let's get into my personal opinions and my story regarding the exam. The exam was pretty difficult, but I'm going to be honest with you. I actually only studied one day and the day before the exam. Don't do what I did. Do not study at the last minute, okay? So I studied the day before. I want to say I registered for the exam 2 weeks before I finished my course, and then I just got lazy and I completely forgot about it, and then I'm like, oh no, I have that exam tomorrow. I have to study for it. I would say it is one of the hardest exams that I've taken, and I've taken AP exams. I've taken college entrance exams. I've even taken exams that are in a different language. So, I want to say it's pretty difficult. The questions will get you on some of them. So I would just recommend to study those fonts. If I can tell you to study anything, study those fonts, okay? But that's really it. If you have any questions about the Notary Public exam or any questions for me in general, I'll put my social media handles on the screen. Feel free to DM me or message me. But that's it for this video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye, guys.